Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, indeed.
The legend Candace Parker. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
How you feeling this
nice
morning?
being in the room. Goodness.
Man, nice having you. You know, you're one of those people, like, you know, people always say, like, who would you ever want to interview? And you really be like, oh, I don't know, because you can't really think of nobody. But then when you see you on the schedule, you're like, oh, shit, Candace Parker. I'd love to have a conversation with Candace Parker.
I appreciate
you. I really enjoyed your book, The Can-Do Mindset, How to Cultivate Resilience, Follow Your Heart, and Fight for Your Passions. Can you break down why you called it The Can-Do Mindset? Yeah,
growing up, nickname Can, short for Candace, you know that. But my mom, I grew up with two older brothers, 8 and 11 years older than me. And fast forward, my oldest brother played 10 years professionally, played alongside LeBron for years. My middle brother became a doctor. And so I just saw these enormous role models that were doing so many great things. And I think sometimes I doubted myself. And so my mom, from the time I was little, 2, 3 years old, she'd always see the doubt in my eye and she'd always be like, can do. And it just became my mantra and it became my voice in my head. And I mean, it took me through high school, knocking down game-winning free throws to shoot, even now. And so then it became an acronym for community, authenticity, navigating negativity, loving the dash, which is the journey in between, and seizing and creating opportunity.
Well, congratulations on August 25th. Your jersey will be retired. Well deserved. How does that feel?
To go back home to Chicago, I grew up in Naperville, and I grew up a Chicago Bulls fan. I mean, they won 6 championships in the 90s when I was living there, and so it became synonymous with winning. So to go back and play basketball in front of the people that first saw me pick up a ball and then to win a championship in front of the people that first saw me play basketball, that was super special. I couldn't have written it any better. And, you know, I think first you dream of a championship being up in the rafters, and second you dream of your jersey as well.
You know, I think it was in the authenticity section of the book you were talking about, being competitive, right? And how people don't let women be competitive the way that the men are. So when you see, and I know you get this all the time, but when you see the Caitlyn Angel rivalry or whatever you want to call it, isn't that just women being competitive?
I think it's women being competitive, but honestly, I think that the more visibility you get, the more scrutiny you're going to get. I mean, that's just nature. As women, I think society always tries to put you in a box. So as athletes, we fit outside that box. You know, you're either too muscular, you're not competitive enough, but then when you show competitive nature, it's not ladylike. So whatever you do, as a woman, I feel like until we break that mold in society where it's like okay for us to be fierce competitors, I think you're always going to have a different narrative. And so, yeah, I look at it like it's competitive and it's two people going at it. And sometimes I think it's overblown. Sometimes I think that like you're making a basketball play and then there's 15 angles from different cameras that try to, make it something it's not. So I don't know. I'm just excited where women's sports is in general right now. Because people are talking about it. People know the names. People are following the brands. And a lot of it has to do with the visibility of it. Women's sports has always been there. It's just a matter of people tuning in and paying attention. And I think organizations, broadcasters, all that, giving it a chance to succeed. Not putting it head-to-head up against NFL. Not putting it head-to-head up against finals or MLB or whatever. And so I think now we're seeing more women's basketball, and because of that, I think that's why it's grown.
The reason I ask that, I watch a lot of women's basketball, and I've been watching Angel since college. So since even that Caitlyn incident, I've seen her and Aaliyah Thomas have a little kerfuffle. Like, she's always getting into it with somebody, but it's not the same reaction from people. It's just, but to me, it's just like women out there playing ball. They're being competitive.
And I think ball players know that. But now you're getting the casual fans that don't understand that type of basketball. So I think it's a competitive nature. Now, are there things that cross the line? Yes. Are there comments and, discussions behind things that cross the line? 100%. And I think, we have to get that under control. But to me, I think half the time it's more competitive than anything.
But there's rivalry as well. I remember, Reggie Miller with the choke sign. We still want action with him regardless. It's still things that's going to make the press push it a little more.
You said we a Knick fan.
But,
By the way, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry about what happened.
I know.
Yeah. It's okay, though. It's okay.
Can I say maybe next year? Can I
Listen,
say
I'm
that?
a Bulls fan, so you know where we're at.
Oh, y'all up out of here. Y'all been up out of here. Y'all been in Cancun.
But listen, what is
Y'all
the
been in
saying? If you're
Cancun.
not first, you're last. So technically, no, it's fine. We weren't even in the playoffs, so it's okay.
I want to ask, you dominated the WNBA, broadcaster, mom, author. Which was the most difficult journey and why?
Motherhood is a journey that is the greatest gift, gives you the most rewarding feeling, but it's also the hardest job that you can have. You think you have it figured out, and then you have another kid, or you think you have it figured out and there's another stage of life. I have a 16-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old son, and a 1-year-old son. And they are all different, and they have all taught me so many different lessons. And I'm just super grateful for not only what I'm able to bring to the table and what I teach them, but the lessons they've taught me. Like, they have humbled me so many times. They have checked me so many times. They have made me look myself in the mirror and ask myself, am I doing what I'm asking them to do? And so I think motherhood is one of those things where I'm just so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for my daughter and what, us being able to kind of go through my career and grow up together and fumble and bump and live across the water and all of those things. And then I'm super grateful to be able to now take a moment with my sons and be able to have a different type of perspective in motherhood and parenthood.
What's a moment in motherhood that made you feel more powerful than any championship ever did? Was when you finally got her hair right?
It's so interesting. She's 16 now. She's just got her permit. She's getting ready for her super sweet 16. That's coming next week. And honestly, I think it's just those moments where she comes and climbs in my bed and we watch a TV show and we're able to have those just conversations about what's on her mind and things like that. So that to me is it's not the big things. It's not the celebrations. It's not, all of those things. It's like those little moments for me that make me super grateful for, our relationship.
I love the way you broke that down in the fumble chapter, though, because it's just I got 4 daughters, so I've seen that struggle firsthand, but I've never seen nobody really talk about how stressful it is to want to get your daughter's hair correct.
When I tell you, so growing up, it was my mom, my hair was always laid. It was she would tell me, no, we're not having everybody talk about how you look crazy. I had the barrettes, I had the braids. I was the little girl and her only girl. So I was dressed, all those things. And, I think all of the black girls out there can understand fried, dyed, laid to the side. I mean, I had relaxer at 6 years old. So when it came to my daughter's hair, I kind of took those same kind of foundation from the Black mom mentality of trying to control. And my daughter has taught me she loves her hair. She wants to wear it in her natural style. She wants to try different things. And I've had to kind of take a back seat and learn to not try to control. There are some days where I let her do what she wants to do with it. And it has become a process, and it has become something that, I have learned to kind of take a back seat for. And I'm grateful for her for teaching me that.
What part of your personality do you think was misunderstood the most during your playing career, and this book helped you to reclaim the narrative?
What's so crazy to me is I think when you're going through just trying to figure stuff out, you're just trying to figure shit out. That's what you're trying to do, but you're going through life trying to mask it. And for so many parts of my life, during some of my greatest triumphs, winning championships, winning MVPs, I was going through struggles behind the scenes within motherhood and balancing that, within relationships, within, trying to figure out how to be authentic in who I am. And I think the person that I became in that process and who I was for my teammates wasn't always great. It wasn't always who I was. And so I think through writing this book, it has helped me better understand who I want to be, who I commit to be, but also giving myself grace through those moments. Because I think sometimes we show up and we feel like we have to be this at work, but we're still not ourselves. And the people around us know that. And then they start treating us like those people that we aren't. And then it just snowballs out of control. So I think who I am, people may have had a different idea. You know what I mean? And I wasn't always proud of the way that I treated my teammates or how I showed up to work every day. But sometimes when you're just trying to show up and you're trying to make it, you know, that's the best that you can do. So I think I kind of like went through that and processed that in writing this book.
What was the most difficult thing you had to write in the book? The one difficult thing you was like, you thought about maybe I should take out, or you cried, or it was that hard?
It's really difficult to tell stories that need to be told that aren't going to paint certain people in a positive light. And I think I struggle with that because I like to take the blame. I like to take the onus on myself. In games and losses and missed shots and whatever, I like to say that I've always had a part in whatever happens. And so writing this, it's trying to figure out how do you tell these stories and how do you tell it where it's your story to tell, whereas you're not telling somebody else's story, because I was very conscious of that. So just kind of talking about like my parents' divorce and talking about, you know, leaving the LA Sparks and deciding to go to Chicago, talking about my wife. And then also like near and dear to my heart, like Coach Summit, my coach in college passed away in 2016, and kind of navigating that and what to share, what's intimate that I need to keep with myself, and what can I share and would I have her blessing in sharing.
Mm-hmm. Has your greatness ever made you feel isolated? Like people only saw Candace Parker the player, but not Candace Parker the person? You
know what's so crazy? You know, in basketball, there's like a finite time. Right, the ball is going to eventually stop bouncing. Mm-hmm. You know, Father Time. I mean, LeBron has kind of proven that's not the case, but for most of us. Mm-hmm. But it's like your identity becomes the game. Like you keep the main thing. That's been my gift my whole life. Basketball has been the main thing. I gave up prom, like left prom to go to basketball, lived abroad to play basketball. But it's like when you retire, your identity of the who and the what is separated. And you realize like the people that really saw you for who you were versus what you did. And so I think that was the biggest struggle for me is like everybody has that mourning, that death after you retire. I mean, I love basketball. It was my first love. Mm-hmm. And so I think, yeah, like separating my identity from that, and I was very conscious of trying to show people like I am a history buff. I love to travel. I'm a foodie. I love wine, tequila connoisseur, like all of those things. I'm so much more than just basketball. And so having that separation, I know is like huge for athletes. Mm-hmm. It is a struggle, like talking to people that have retired and have gone and walked that path, because it is a death, a little bit.
Who helped you grieve then?
My family. Honestly, my wife, I'll say my brother as well. My oldest brother went through this and he seamlessly transitioned. I planned the transition ahead of time. You know, I started commentating, way back in 2015, 2016. I started transitioning. I started doing more business and paying attention and wanting to be at the table and in meetings and things like that. So the transition occurred before the ball officially stopped bouncing. But boy, there were days where I'd wake up and it's just like you miss that feeling of walking in and 18,000 people are screaming your name, and like the feeling of like your family's identity is that. Like they plan their summers around when my games were or trips or
you've been doing it since a kid though.
You've been doing it and it's crazy because you realize although I don't like attention, that's not what I play basketball for. It's an event. You go play. Everybody watches you play.
It is the attention your parents give you.
It is. And then afterwards, everybody's like, where are we going to eat? You go eat. Then it's like, you know, and it's like you don't realize how much of that is a part of your life. And so for me, I think that was the hardest thing. But like I said, I have my family. We had my son last year, and he just was like, he had the ability to make me stop and realize like that's where I was supposed to be. I've always been 15 million different places. And so I think, honestly, my son's heart made me really appreciate retirement because I got to enjoy all the little things.
But jealous is not the right word, but do you ever get jealous or feel a way when you look at the way WNBA players are treated now than when you guys played? I just remember like 2-3 years ago, and I was on a plane flying from Atlanta, and there were some players from the Atlanta team. They were in the back of the plane, and they couldn't get first class seats, and they were riding, and they were struggling, and they, you know, even said, "Envy, talk about this on the radio." But now, when you see, and they're starting to fly private, and they're starting to make a little more money, they're starting to make endorsements. Do you ever feel a way like, damn?
You got to feel it a little bit of that.
You know what's so crazy though? I'm like the biggest Steph Curry fan. You remember when he signed that deal? It was like a $40 million deal years ago.
For what?
And everybody, no, it was for the NBA.
Oh,
it was
okay,
right
okay.
after his ankle injury. And everybody kept asking him about it because it was right during their run in 2015. And he was like, I never count another man's pocket. Like, that's just not what I do. I feel like that's the purpose. Like, if we didn't leave it better, what are we doing? Like, I don't want them to have to go through what we went through. But I also know that Cheryl Miller, who never got to step foot in the WNBA, didn't want me to not have a league to play in. Do you know what I mean? And so I think, like, yes, sometimes would I have scored more points if we had a private flight waiting for, would I have made more like school performances if I could get back the night of the game and been able to sleep and rest and recover? Would I probably had a lot fewer injuries? 100%. But I feel like I'm proud because I know my name will be mentioned in the conversation of those that made it possible today.
Dope.
Like made the things possible today. I remember flying commercial in Premium Plus in a middle seat next to Sylvia Fowles going to play them in the Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. We like wrestled over the armrest. I won, but like they won the game, but I won the armrest battle. And I remember thinking like, this isn't how it's supposed to be.
Right.
But now on the other side, I want ownership. Like I want to own a team. Like I want to be a part of that and making it better as well. So I can't count another woman's pocket. I don't want to. I've done one myself, and the ability to take care of my family and have all the opportunities I have today because of the Cheryl Millers and the Nancy Liebermans and Shamiko Holsclaws and all those that came before me.
In your 16-year career, did you feel the difference? So I always ask my aunts this question, right? Because my aunts, like, they're older, right? Like 80-something years old, so they were in school during segregation, right? So now they know a integrated world. Did you feel the difference?
Oh, I felt the difference,
Okay,
100%.
okay.
But I also felt the difference in the ebbs and flows.
Gotcha.
Like there was one year where the WNBA signed a deal with the Holiday Inn Express. And every time I would walk into the Holiday Inn Express, the fans would be like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? So I've been a part of the WNBA at the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And I talk about it a lot in the book about the WNBA and the business plan that needs to happen to continue this growth and to foster this growth, because that was what I had an issue with for so long. Like, scare money doesn't make money. In order to have something, you have to invest in it, and you have to invest properly. And I think now we're getting billionaires that see and have the mindset and the business savvy. And it's about competition. You see, like, Vegas had a practice facility. Now, New York wants a practice facility. Then Phoenix has competition is what started the NBA. You look at that. Like, Johnny Buss wanted a championship team because of Red Auerbach. Like, that's what facilitates growth. And so I think the WNBA is finally catching up to that.
Do you think the world has truly reckoned with how different your career would be if you were a man with the exact same talent?
I talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
McDonald's All-American 2004. Dwight Howard and myself, we were the #1 players. I was women's, he was men's. And there's a blurb in the book where him and I went to prom when I was in high school, and our trajectories were so different after that day. And I was angry. I remember being angry because, like, inside my house, my mom and dad, you can do and be anything. And, at that point, you couldn't have NIL money. So I'm watching, my quotes be on shirts sold. I'm watching everybody in Knoxville wearing my jersey, and I'm eating Papa John's before games because the school can't even pay for my meal because it was illegal at the time. And so in the book, I talk about kind of like, I was really upset because, yes, he's 6'10", big, strong, but he had this league laid out that was already growing, that had already been through the growing pains of what I was about to go through. And then I just was like, my left hand is better than his. And so I was mad because I was like, he has this league to go develop and use his name and image and likeness. And I have to wait 4 years, go abroad and compete in a league that, was 20 years young.
Wow. Another part of the book I love, it was interesting to read about how you came to grow to love your wife, right? And it had me thinking, because you did like guys, so it had me thinking, like, what else about yourself did you realize this just isn't me?
What's so interesting is I think I've spent my entire life standing out, and somehow in that process, sometimes I did things just to stand out and not really listen to myself and who I wanted to be. And that's kind of opposite of what I've always tried to live by. And for a long time, it took my daughter really being like, are you happy? You know, for me to really look myself in the mirror and say, am I just going through the motions? And at 20 years old, I don't think you realize how long 20 years or 30 years or 40 years is, right? And just kind of gritting your teeth and, you know, getting through things is what I had grown accustomed to. And I think it was allowing myself to be open. I always grew up envisioning myself with a Prince Charming. Always. I never in a million years, when I do those little trashy magazine things, I would always talk about Prince Charming. And it's crazy because sometimes life hands you things in packages that you least anticipate it coming in. And that's what happened with my wife. I mean, she's my best friend. And she's been there through the ups and downs. And I think it was about like her and I both being like, wait a minute, like, are we allowing other people's judgments to dictate the next 30 or 40 years? Like, I'm going to allow my Instagram followers to really determine who I say good morning to and who I say good night to every single night. And I had to take a step back because I really don't care what people think, but then I really did. And so it was kind of just like that evaluation and looking myself in the mirror.
When did you realize? What was that moment?
When I didn't fight it, I would say we were at a museum. I'm a big like nerd. I love like all types of museums. And it was her mind, like it was her knowledge and like just her ability to carry a conversation. And my brother said something when her and I got married. My brother said something that really stuck out to me. And he said, you know, Candace needs somebody that's strong enough to put her in her place, but soft enough where she feels vulnerable and an ability to like kind of like lay her head on her shoulder and be that vulnerable person. And when I realized I was doing that, where I, you know, she would say stuff and I wouldn't have any response. And at first, some of my friends were like, hold on, who is she? Like, you know what I mean? Because that's not normally what happens. And then the same thing where I would confess things that were bothering me or, you know, have issues and be comfortable enough to share. I think that's when I noticed.
Did the people in your life know how difficult it was for you to keep, I guess, her a secret? Because, I mean, like in the book, I got frustrated when you was talking about how you wanted to tell your brother, but you didn't tell your brother. I'm like, just tell him. He loves you, you know? But did they know? Are they going to read this book and realize for the first time, like, damn, I didn't know it was that serious?
I've been on the other side of it, where I've been the person that has been like, everybody knows, just say it, just tell him. But I think everybody comes to grips with it at a different time. I know we live in a world that has Pride Month and has all of these things, but it is scary because you are put in another category. You know, I'm already in 2. So now I'm going to be put in a 3rd, and with, you know, someone that isn't black. She's Russian and white. And you
wrote that in the book.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's like, what am I getting myself into? And I know my family's going to love me, but I have always done things to separate myself and excel and be a role model and be an example. And I think at that first moment, I'm like, are my nieces and nephews going to be allowed to come out and visit me? Like, is my family going to accept her? When we have children, are they going to look at them as their grandkids? Or so there's all these questions and things you go back and forth with in your head. And I know it seems easy, especially when you're not and you're looking at the world and you're like, oh, well, it's so open and accepting. But it's like you've never sat there and seen the glances of like, you know, people judging, or, you know, you never walked in the rooms and, you know, heard voices give you validation, but you hear whispers behind you like, oh, you know, she's just like them, or she's, you know, whatever. And so I think that's the biggest thing is my brother was amazing throughout the entire process. My family was great, but my wife's parents didn't talk to her for almost a year.
Wow.
You know, like we had family members that we have separated ourselves from because in front with my family and with my kids, this is the standard. Like, this is how we're going to be treated. And so there had to be, we couldn't go through this process ourselves and help others go through it. So we had to do it ourselves, be okay with it, be strong enough, and then, you know, go forward with it. You can't rush it.
The sexuality part was one aspect of it, but you also talked about the race aspect of it. Like, you really cared what Dr. Umar thought that much?
No, but it's a different dynamic when you walk it. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, like, you know, even with our kids, it's like, you know, they have a black mom and a white mom, and, you know, it's like navigating the race element and the conversations. We've grown up in two completely different countries. Mm-hmm. So having those conversations, like, she's not coming from a place of understanding through experience. And so, like, even so, you know, we're confident and we're cool within our household, but it's like you don't understand the other noise that's could mess that up, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Have there ever been a time where you dimmed your light to make others feel comfortable, especially in rooms full of men?
100%. You know, it's so funny. I was sitting on the shop, and it was with Draymond Green. Bron was there. Mav was there. And they were like, you know, people don't understand what it's like to be a black man and be the only one in the meeting. And I was looking around like, what? Y'all really just said that. Like, read the room. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes you have to pick your battles a little bit. As a teammate, my job is to make those around me better. So same thing when you're sitting at these tables. Like, the point isn't to make people feel stupid or feel small. The point is to make them understand the need for different voices at the table. And I would say diversity of thought, you know, and, you know, I've sat at so many tables and been the only. I'm comfortable, but I'm tired of being the only, right? Like, when I went into TNT as the only female on that set, you know, a lot of people think, hey, I want you, you know, you trying to be one of the guys. Like, no, I'm trying to be one of the players. That's it. So treat me as such. The way I see the game is way different than Shaq. Shaq, throw the ball down low, barbecue chicken. Shaq, other people have to do moves.
I don't even we can't just be watching the game.
We just can't. Yes, but like the way he played was just so dominant that he doesn't understand that people have to do stuff to score. He's like, just throw it down there and score. And it's like, Cat can't do that. He's not. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying, but Cat can't do that. D Wade and we can't do that. We have to do moves and use the mental aspect and element of it. But I feel like the value that is brought to the table, if you had 15 Shaqs, what? You know, as analysts, but he brings value to the equation because he was so dominant, and it gives you a bird's eye view of like dominance. And so I just think anytime you have different people at the table, you're going to bring different perspectives. Like, why not? And so it just drives me crazy. I watch First Take. I like Stephen A. Smith. He's super knowledgeable about the game, but like the people that comment under my posts about how I'm a woman, I never played in the NBA and I should shut the F up and whoa, but they are like, Stephen A. Smith has the Bible for the NBA, and it's like, he hasn't even played either. Right. Yeah. But it's just because, you know, he's a man. And so I just am continuing to fight that stigma. I'm open for the challenge. I'm up for it. Grew up with two older brothers. All we did was make fun of each other. So I'm game. I can speak that language, but it's just having the opportunity to like separate myself. Like, don't like me as an analyst, but don't not like me because I'm a woman. That's my thing.
Was there ever a moment when you... I know she got to go. Was there ever a moment that you wanted to give the game up at all?
There was a moment in the middle of my career where I asked myself, are you having fun? Because I always had fun playing basketball. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the stage. It wasn't about who was in the chair. I would have fun shooting after practice by myself in the gym. But in the middle of my career, when I was going through all those injuries and hadn't won a championship yet and I was super stressed, yeah, I thought about it. And I think it's one of those things where it's like your first love, it never leaves your heart. Like, you always find your way back to it. And even though I'm not hooping now, I'm brainwashing my sons to hoop. My daughter's volleyball, but Parker boys are coming. I'm telling you, 6'10", 6'11", point forward. Yeah. 7. We got a Braun body type and a Wemby, so we coming. You let it be known right here.
Right now.
We coming.
Right.
You said something just not, that the perspective thing is ill about what you said about Shaq, because it's just like, yes, he was probably the most dominant player we've ever seen. So he only knows that. He thinks it's so easy.
Eat barbecue chicken. And I'm like, Shaq, it's not barbecue chicken. If it was the case, we would have, people would just do what you do. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And so I don't know. He is brilliant in his own right. It's just people can't play the game that way.
Yeah. 2 more quick questions. Is there a WNBA teammate you didn't appreciate in the moment, but now you realize that person was vital to your growth?
That's a really, really, really great question. I would say I appreciated her in the moment, but I don't think I appreciated her enough in the moment. I would say definitely Delisha Milton-Jones. I think she's someone that was in the league for such a long time. She had such an amazing career, longevity, won championships with the Sparks, played different roles, played key roles, came off the bench. Like, she did it all. And so I think she genuinely wanted me to succeed. And you know, I was a rookie when she was there, and, you know, we got in some brawls alongside. She beat me up in practice coming off screens, and it was like all that was tough love because she loved me.
My last question, and you know, you talk about a lot of things in the book, but what's something you haven't forgiven yourself for yet, even if nobody else knows about it?
I would say I struggled for a long time in the closing seconds of games mentally.
Wow.
I did. Because the results didn't work out for me. I talk about that a lot in this book, about how naive I was my rookie year. We lost by a last-second shot. 9 years later, I was still losing by last-second shots. And I felt myself in those moments tense up when prior, I would relish in those moments. Like, I'd want the ball. And I would find myself shying away from those moments because I had conceded to the fact that it was just not going to work out. And it took my brother... It took me finally realizing how to relinquish results and just live in the process, the dash, right? Enjoying the journey. It took a Kobe Bryant text message to me that was like, it's better the hard way. You don't die with bullets in the chamber, right? Like, you go down shooting. And it was that text message and just the support from my family and friends that allowed me to win the championship. And it came down to the closing moments. And in those moments, I just played. And it could have not worked out. It could have worked out. But I just, since that time, when I lose, I'm not in bed for 4 or 5 days. Like, I'm going to commit to the process. I'm going to commit to the grind. I'm going to honestly try to stay at that, like, even-keeled mentality. And that's in life as well. And I wholeheartedly believe things will work out the way that they need to.
All right.
Candace Parker,
ladies and gentlemen.
Can Do Mindset out right now. Go get it.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
All right. When the season starts back up, check in on us. Come on up here. We'd love to talk to you.
Say less.
And WNBA season up right now, so come talk to us. It's Candace Parker. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.